I brought some notes so I could kind of stay on track, so I apologize. How many of you guys have heard me speak before? I've been here. Everybody, just about. Some of you have not. Just a little bit about myself. My mom was a single mom. I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California, raised in Arvin. Like I said, my mom was a single mom, and she raised 5 kids. None of us ended up in jail or committed any crimes or anything. So that whole thing about poverty creating crime is wrong. If you were to ask a World War II veteran who grew up in poverty, lived in poverty, the Depression age, and those kinds of things, if you ever asked him, how come you didn't commit murder or rape anybody, he'd look at you like you had 2 heads. So the theory that poverty creates crime is just absurd. I graduated from high school barely by the skin of my teeth. I'm the most unlikely legislator in the state of California. I went to the United States, I joined the United States Army, and I served at Headquarters Company, 5th Corps, Frankfurt, Germany, overseas. And I was there when the wall came down between East and West Berlin, which was really pretty a unique time. I tell a story often that when my colonel said, "Smitty, type of flight manifest." And I said, "Oh, with all due respect, sir, unless I get to go." And so he let me go, and the wall was coming down, and we were up on a hill far away from the wall. We weren't anywhere near it, but we could see it. And this guy, when there was a break in the wall, he came through the wall. He had no shirt on, tattered jeans, and he just dropped to his knees. And you could see the sobbing in his, you could see that he was sobbing heavily. And so my theory is behind this guy is that maybe he went there to visit his grandparents or his aunt or his uncle, and the wall went up that night because it went up fairly fast, and he was separated from his loved ones and lost his freedom from the west side of Germany. And I think about where we are as Americans today, and we don't have a physical wall going up, but we have a regulatory wall that is restricting us and a government wall that's restricting all of our freedoms as Americans. And especially as Californians, when you think about it, California has some of the strictest regulatory environmental laws, property rights, non-protection rights in California, and gun rights in California. So I guess my question tonight is that just because we live in California, why should we have less constitutional rights than anyone else in any other state? Last I checked, it was a federal constitution. It's a national constitution, and so that kind of bothers me a little bit. After I left the United States military, I came home and I started a temporary staffing company, so I have a business. I've been in business in the state of California for 22 years in spite of this state, and I've been able to employ, I have 52 full-time staff workers, and we give about 2,500 people every year the opportunity to get full-time employment with our clients. So I'm in the business of providing people jobs. You provide somebody a job, they can feed their family, they can clothe their family, they don't need welfare, they don't need welfare assistance, they don't need food banks, they don't need your taxpayer dollars to buy diapers per se, which is a new bill that just came out. Or Obama phones. Yeah, your taxpayer dollars aren't paying for Obama phones. Let's see, and then politics. I wasn't looking for this job when this job came looking for me. I really wasn't. If you followed the election, I voted if I was in town, which was really bad. I spent a lot of time in the missions field before I got elected, so if I was in Zimbabwe, Africa, and I was there in June and I missed the vote, I didn't even really know what a provisional ballot was. And that's my bad. I was a business owner, and I took care of my youth kids at church, and I took them all over the world on missions trips. So if you, like I said, was to follow the first election, it really looked kind of bad about my political history. I wasn't connected in politics at all. The most I was a donor. My congressman would call and go, "Hey, you want to meet George Bush?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, $2,500. I was a donor, as a business owner and a donor. So I was never really involved in politics. And our senator had announced, our assembly member had announced that she was going to run for the state senate. And so I called my congressman and I said, "Hey, who's the candidate we're going to look at? Is it a conservative? What are we looking at?" He goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Eating dinner in Mexicali." He goes, "No, really, what are you doing?" And I go, "Eating dinner in Mexicali." And he goes, "You should run for this office." And I'm like, oh no, right? So I go home, I hang up on him. And I go home and my husband goes, "What'd you do?" And I go, "I was eating dinner with the girls and da-da-da-da." By the way, this is what happened. I was talking to our congressman, and he said this, and he goes, "Wow, babe, you're a business owner. The business is on its own. You don't have to be there all the time. You've gone to different countries. you could go up and really kind of teach them what's going on and share with them how these laws affect businesses, and then maybe we can get back on the right track for economic prosperity and job creation. And I was like, you know, get behind me, Satan. Are you kidding me? So we prayed and fasted over it for 21 days, and after 21 days, we really felt like we didn't get a no answer, so we put our name on the ballot, and we won, I think, by 78% or something like that. So over someone that had been in politics for, the established politics for, I think, 18 years. I am not a traditional Republican. As a matter of fact, my Republican leadership despises me. I don't think she's spoken a word to me in 3 years. 3 years. She has never even spoken a word to me. So Republican leadership is not real happy. Yeah, you try to figure out what's going on when they're doing stuff behind your back and you don't know. You know what I mean? But, you know, there's things that happen, you know, like water is a big issue right now, especially me being from the Central Valley, and our farmers are fallowing land and uprooting trees, and so they send out a letter, a caucus letter, that says, you know, all these legislators are in favor of supporting water to the Central Valley, and the only name on it's not mine because they didn't send it to my office, but you just have to, you know, fight these battles as they come. My farmers sent it to me. I said, absolutely, had I seen it, I would have definitely signed it, and they get it. So, politics, you know, like I said, we won, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, my husband goes, babe, you're going to the California State Assembly. Now let's think about that for a second, right? My husband's just a normal North Dakota cowboy, he has a degree from North Dakota State for artificial insemination for animals, okay, that's my husband. He did AI educational training. Me, I barely graduated from high school. I was actually such a rotten kid, I went to a continuation high school for a part of my high school time. I do not have a college degree. I joined the United States military. I'm a gun carrying. I carry a gun. I carry a Glock 40 caliber. I'm a spirit-filled believer, and I'm a prayer warrior, and I'm in the California State Assembly. That is just so odd to me because I don't fit there at all. I get my mic shut off quite often. I get my mic shut off quite often because I don't have a problem standing up and saying what I think is right. The old speaker, or the speaker that was previous to this speaker, came to me one time and said, you know, we've tried to punish people, we try to reward people and they fall right in line, and you know, we've tried to punish people and they really fall in line once we take their parking place and their committees. Well, they took my parking place and my committees and they punished me, and I'm in a little office, up a ramp, down a ramp, and around a staircase. As a matter of fact, the employees were learning how to use the wheelchair access ramp that loads your wheelchair and takes you down the stairwell into my, what they call, dungeon. Today they were going through training for that. And there's nothing they can do to me. So that speaker comes up to me and he goes, I just don't get you. I don't get you at all. You know, we can reward people and they're like my best friend. And we can punish people and they fall right in line. He goes, we've done both to you and you just ignore us. And I said, well, sir, I said, the problem with me is that I wasn't looking for this job and I don't need this job. I love Jesus and he loves me, and even though I fail every day, I can get up and start again in the morning. My husband worships the ground I walk on. He really does. And my Yorkie, he thinks I'm all that in a bag of chips. So you got nothing on me. I mean, absolutely, positively nothing on me. So it's interesting to see them. Even if it's a Republican bill that's a tax increase, it's a tax increase, and the Republicans are trying to pass it as a fee increase, I'll get up and stand up and oppose it. And the speaker again came over to me one time and he said, you know, well, at least you're consistent regardless who the author is. Well, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. So this sign, I brought this sign, I guess it was a couple of years ago when I came and spoke. It's an old sign. They've added about 50 probably agencies onto that. So it is has grown. I'll try to have to get you an updated list.
How many total?
Total, there were 3,000, over 3,000 when we printed the sign, and now they've added more. There's a task force for just about everything. So I can get you that list. Can you get that list? You're nodding. Are you videotaping this? This is Greg. Stand up, Greg. Greg was kind enough to drive me here because I got it from Bakersfield at 4 o'clock this morning and a little tired. So if I sound really bad, it's just because I'm lack of sleep. because today was our first day back in the session. It's kind of like your first day of school. You couldn't sleep because you thought you were going to oversleep, and you wake up every hour on the hour the night before. So little sleep, and then getting up at 4 this morning to drive up here. So this sign, one of the examples that I say where I just don't comply or conform, and my husband says, babe, just keep smiling. They'll never know what you're thinking. So God has given me boldness, extreme boldness, but in a way that is sometimes non-offensive or very disarming. So this sign, I get this sign made and I hang it up, and somebody from the HR department, they call it rules for the assembly, but it's like the HR department. So this little lady from the HR department comes into my office and she goes, Ms. Grove, the speaker doesn't like your sign. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she goes, can you take it down? I go, sure. And she goes, okay, thank you. And she leaves. And then a couple of hours later, another person from the rules department comes by and says, didn't Trisha or whatever her name was tell you that the speaker didn't like your sign? I go, yeah, she did. And he goes, well, the speaker wants you to take that down. Are you going to take it down? I go, oh, absolutely. And he goes, okay, thank you. And so he leaves, and then the boss comes in from rules, and he goes, I know you've been told twice the speaker doesn't like your sign. Did you misunderstand it? Oh, no, not at all. And, you're going to take that sign down, right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, okay. He goes, we're on the same page, right? And I go, oh, absolutely, sir, absolutely. And he goes, okay, so we're not going to have any more problems, right? And I said, oh, no, sir, not at all. And he goes, so you're going to take that sign down, right? I go, absolutely, sir. And so he leaves. And somebody else comes in and goes, or the Republican leader comes in, and I just told her, I said, oh, look at her. I said, I'm not taking the sign down. And she goes, well, can you at least sit in here and let me respond to some emails so I can act like I'm yelling at you? And I said, absolutely. So she responds emails, I'm doing my work. She stays in there about 10 minutes, and she opens the door, and she goes, I mean it, you better take that sign down. And then she leaves. So about an hour and a half after that, I get a phone call from my congressman. He's like, what are you doing? And I go, nothing. He's in D.C., right? I go, nothing. And he said, you must be doing something. He goes, I've gotten like 3 phone calls. I go, they called you in D.C. over my sign on the door? You got to be kidding me. They don't have anything. I mean, we're at the worst unemployment rate, the worst business climate in the state, in the nation. We got the highest taxes, not including Prop 30. That was before Prop 30. And now we do have the highest taxes. We got the highest gas tax. We got, no water going to our farmers, and people are fallowing land, and you got all these issues. You got businesses leaving the state, and you're worried about my sign? Give me a break. So he made a joke, and he said, I said, well, you want me to take, he's my congressman, so I go, hey, you want me to take it down? He goes, shoot, no, they're so wrapped up in your sign, they're not hurting California today. I did. I told him, I said, well, nobody really likes me up here. He goes, they don't have to like you. You got a dog. And so he was pretty cool with it. And about probably a couple of hours after that, in walks the speaker. Now, John Perez, he's a pretty good-sized guy. And I thought, when I saw him coming in, I did get a little nervous. I have to admit that. I got a little nervous. And he sits down and he goes, Miss Grove, didn't you hear that I didn't like that sign? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, so are you going to take it down? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, you're going to take it down? I said, yes, sir. And he goes, I thought you would. And I said, yes, sir, I will. And he goes, okay. He goes, you can take it down right now? I said, no, sir. Real polite. So anyways, push come to shove, we didn't take the sign down. He threatened to take the sign down. I told him it was my personal property. I called the cops. And we had this little discussion. And he left, right? So he left. And the next thing I know, they offered me, or they removed me for certain committees, and they moved my office. So my door is not like in a main walkway where people can't see it anymore. You actually can't see my door from anywhere, right? You really can't see my door at all. It's like the hallway ends, and then there's this ramp, and then you go through these fire doors, and then there's like a wheelchair ramp that you see on the wall, and then my door is like down 4 steps this way. So you can't see my door anymore, so I can't use my door as a bulletin board. So I've introduced legislation. All of it has died, except today we did get a bill out of Senator Probst. It took me 3 years to get a bill out, right? Is that what it was? So all of my bills have died. I introduced a bill saying that legislators had to live under the laws that they create. For instance, the labor code. I, as a business owner, have to comply with overtime over 8, double time over 12, a 15-minute break every 2 hours, and a 30-minute lunch every 5.5 hours or fraction thereof. I have to pay above minimum wage, state minimum wage. which is now $10 an hour. But I can work this guy 23 hours in a day, pay him $5 an hour or less, and there's not a dang thing he can do to me. Nothing. He can't do anything to me. So I introduced a bill that said that legislators had to live under the labor code, because my thought process was if they lived under the labor code for 30 minutes, they'd change the labor code. Anyways, that bill died. I introduced a parental notification bill because your kids can't get an aspirin at school without your knowledge, but they can be taken down by anyone, including a perpetrator, to get an abortion, and you're not even notified. That bill died. I introduced a gendercide bill because it's proven we had documented cases where people from India, where this is outlawed in India, which is a third world country, you cannot get an abortion just because it's a girl. And so they've outlawed it in India. So these people get on a plane, they fly to California, and thank you, you guys pay for their services. As taxpayers, it is now funded by the taxpayers, and they come from India to California to have an abortion. I introduced legislation about charter schools, which was the bill that got out today on virtual charter schools, and several things, but all of my bills have died, except this particular one, but it really doesn't do anything, so, I mean, it's just a simple bill that helps charter schools a little bit. California, let me give you a little bit about California, and then I'll just take questions, I guess. So California, prior to Prop 30 passing, we were supposed to be the highest income tax state in the nation. Now with Prop 30 passing, we are the highest income tax state in the nation. We're by far the highest nation, 21% higher than second place, which is Hawaii. So it goes us and then drop 21%, you get Hawaii. So we're 21% higher than Hawaii. We have the highest sales tax in the nation at 7.5%. We have the highest gas tax in the nation, and if Bonnie Lowenthal gets her way and you have a vehicle miles traveled bill, that means every mile you travel, your little car will register that you drove 10 miles to see Aunt Susie, and you're going to pay taxes on that. We were 19th highest per capita in property taxes, which they are trying to get rid of Proposition 13 as we speak. They're doing it in piecemeal ways. They're starting with those evil business owners first, and then it will come down to property owners. Just like the Air Resources Board, they started with those most polluters, like they call them, the most polluters, like the refineries and things like that. So you have refineries that have left the state. We don't refine our own oil, and so now it's coming down to you guys. Everybody who drives a car will pay an additional tax. So don't think that just because it's hitting the business community that you're not next if you're just a citizen or an employee. Let's see, cap and trade tax. You know that the governor funded in his budget $250 million out of all cap and trade tax to fund high-speed rail. There is now a continuous appropriation of 25% of every dollar he collects off of you for driving your vehicles is going to fund high-speed rail. Last time I was here, you guys told me you didn't want to fund high-speed rail, but you're doing it. So that's, something to be not proud of. But the governor does have a continuous appropriation for this budget made it every year 25% of all cap and trade revenues will go to fund high-speed rail. Let's see, in 2013, the business tech climate, we were ranked third worst in the nation, and Capital Business Magazine has ranked us last in the nation for doing business inside the state for the last 9 years. Let's see, welfare and poverty, we have 12% of the nation's population and 24% of the welfare population. And Lorena Gonzalez, an esteemed assembly member that I serve with right now, is introducing a bill to have you guys pay for diapers for welfare recipients. That's a bill. Water is a huge issue and needs to be addressed. And people go, oh my God, it's the drought, it's the drought, it's the drought. It's not the drought, it's bad environmental policy. That's all it is. California has been through droughts since its existence. We are probably in the third year of a 5-year drought, and believe me, if we weren't shipping 800 acre-feet of water into the San Joaquin River restoration or some of the ridiculous things that we do under that 1974 environmental policy, we would still have enough water to grow our food and to make sure that every individual had water. I'm thinking about running an ad, if you can't wash your Chevy, think a Democrat. If you're getting a fine because your lawn is green, think a Democrat. So we're thinking about that kind of ad. But the bottom line is that California has had droughts in the past, and the only reason that we haven't been able to survive or we're having issues with this drought is because of bad environmental policy. They released all the water. The other thing is that farmers and growers and individuals that are fighting for water, they pay 100% to the state water project for zero water this year. So they're already paying their millions of dollars for, that's like you guys going to the grocery store, spending $100 on groceries and walking out with nothing. And then going to the food market to pay extra. So they already pay 100% for their water allocation and they get zero. And then now they're having to pay millions of dollars on top of that to drill wells so that they can pump underground water to make sure the crops survive. We did a taping. When did we do the taping? You're at a really bad profile though too over there. You're gonna make me look real big. So we did a taping with some farmers. And we were standing. Everybody know what cuties are? Those little mandarins that your grandkids like because they can peel them easy. So all these uprooted mandarin trees were everywhere, like all this acreage. And I said, why did you do that? And he says, there's no water and I have to fallow the land. And so I said, how long, if they gave you water today, that was one of the questions. Because most people think, oh, just give them water and they'll grow the trees back, right? If you gave that guy water today, he would not be able to produce a cutie for you on that property for 8 years. I mean, you got to think about the food. I mean, the issue that farmers are fallowing land isn't even hitting the public. And next year they could give you 100% of the water, and you're still going to have 8 years to replace what they've already removed from the table. You won't even notice it for 8 years. That's a scary thing. That's where California doesn't plan. You talk about rock quarries. It takes 17 years to permit a rock quarry, and we have not permitted a quarry in, I don't know, decades, long time. But the bottom line is that we're going to have to import that stuff so that we can build roads and infrastructure because we only have enough supply within our own infrastructure for quarries for the next 9 years. So even if they gave us a permit today, we'd still have to import for 10 years. Does that make sense? They just don't look at the future. Jerry Brown and his 2 tunnels, or, it's just a union issue. His 2 tunnels, it's a buy-off or a payoff to the unions. We already have existing infrastructure within our infrastructure that we have right now to deliver water. They just won't let us deliver the water, partly because the non-indigenous delta smelt. And part of that is really, really sad when you think about it, because farmers have said, we'll farm fish. If you say we've killed 1,000 fish, we'll farm and grow fish, like trout farms when they throw them into the lakes. And the environmentalists are like, oh, no, that's not natural. We're not going to do that. But they won't even let us come up with solutions to the problem. So it truly is a huge issue. I think it's all about controlling the land. When they control the water, the underground water, they control groundwater resources, they control your claims to water. Government controls a lot. I'll share with you some good things. I believe in the Constitution. I had to be a quick study at it because, like I said, I was really a bad high school student. But the bottom line is that government is there to promote the general welfare of the people for prosperity and safety and security. It's not to promote special interest. It's real common. It's just a common sense approach. You don't supply diapers with taxpayer dollars to welfare recipients. That is not in the general welfare of the public. You don't let your kids use the same bathroom. If you're a little boy, use a boy's bathroom. Your little girl, use a girl's bathroom. It's pretty simple. If you have it in doubt, look down. I told you I'm not a regular politician. So the bottom line is that I know there are kids that struggle with transgender identity, but you do not put my granddaughter at risk of being exposed in front of a boy or somebody with male body parts just to accommodate a few. I'm sorry, you have a separate bathroom. The staff bathroom or those kinds of things. And the real issue is that for California to pass laws that say you as a parent cannot even get your child counseling if they're struggling with this issue, and it puts it almost in a child abuse category, and then psychologists and therapists will be arrested. It's against the law. that they can't counsel your children if they're dealing with these type of issues. That law was passed a couple of years ago. It's insane. You as a parent should have the freedom to make sure that your child gets the type of counseling, pastoral counseling, whatever you think your child needs. As long as you don't violate the law and beat them and all that stuff, you clothe them and take care of them. Government should be around for its limited government services and its limited government purpose to promote a general welfare and to protect and have infrastructure. Government should never intrude on anything that the private sector can do. If the private sector can do it, government needs to stay out of it. I think about freedom and liberty, and to me they're two different things. Freedom is being taken from you every single day. For instance, if you make $100 and you go to a store and everything in that store is $100 and below, you have the freedom to buy anything in that store that you want. If the government takes 50% of your paycheck, then your freedom is limited to just what is $50 or less, but you can no longer buy what is above the $50 mark. Liberty is something different. Liberty is like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Liberty is standing up and doing what's right, even in the face of everybody bowing down and doing what's wrong. And I don't mean that, I use that scripture or that Bible passage, but it's not about, that part really isn't about faith. It's about standing up and doing what's right. It's what the California Tea Party Caucus is doing. It's what you guys are doing, organizing people throughout the state to stand up and do what's right, even when your own party has abandoned you because they're so busy being thermostats in the room, they won't be thermometers and set the temperature and the tone for freedom and prosperity. You have Charles Munger, who gave the party, the CRP, the California Republican Party, a big fat check. And you guys, I'm not against people giving big fat checks to help us get conservatives elected. I'm not against that at all. But you cannot give a big fat check and expect to be on the head of a committee that stops the initiatives, which is the people's only voice left. And he stops the initiatives, or he votes where he is the person who controls all initiatives that the California Republican Party is going to support or stop. We have a problem outside. The police are here. Yes. Okay. So what he's doing and what we learned that he's doing, how many of you guys are involved in the California Conservative Tea Party Caucus? No, 1, 2. Oh my gosh. 3, okay. You guys really need to get involved. What it is that they've elected, it's kind of like the California Republican Party, as far as like structure. It's not like it at all, except for it's statewide and it's organizing all the Tea Parties so that you guys know what NorCal is doing, you guys know what San Diego's doing, you know what San Luis Obispo's doing, and you guys are all on the same page and you're accomplishing one purpose. Politicians and, people in leadership are often described as actors performing on stage with a script written by the audience. And what the Tea Party is trying to do, the California Tea Party Caucus, is trying to write the script so that people will perform more conservatively. And they're doing that because they're getting involved. We found out that Munger was running candidates. So out of the 80 assembly members, 55 are Democrats. And we found out Munger was running these like college kids that had no chance to win in an 80% Democrat district. We couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden we realized, oh my God, he's after the delegates. So when you go to the CRP, the only time the California Republican Party, when you go to the CRP conventions, the only time you have as a voice is if you have a proxy or you are a delegate. Then you can vote on the platform, what we'll accept, what are the rules that we're going to abide by as Republicans. But if you don't hold that proxy or that delegate position, you have no voice. So there were probably about, I'll get the numbers kind of messed up, but it was about that ratio. Out of about 1,500 people that showed up at the California Republican Party convention, probably 1,100 of them were Tea Party patriots. And they were cheering on the sides, and they were cheering for Tim Donnelly, and you couldn't hardly get a word in edgewise because they were cheering so loud. And when Cash Carr came along, they gave him a really just kind of a polite applause. No boos, but a polite applause. But the bottom line is all those 1,100 and something people did not have a voice because they didn't carry proxies or they did not have they were not a delegate. So what the Tea Party Caucus is doing is they're engaging in the delegate process. So you can become a delegate if you register 2,500 people to vote. You can become a delegate if you're elected a person, your congressional elected state senate or state assembly person appoints you as a delegate to represent them. You can be on your central committees. You can engage in the central committee process, and just think if the Tea Party group took over Fresno, so now the Fresno is solidly conservative, constitutional conservative. No more limited Republicans in those seats. It's really good. On San Luis, they tried to take it over. If they took over the San Luis team, there's a little over $1.5 million in campaign contributions to the Republican Party that the Tea Party committee would hold and use it on conservative candidates. So there is power when you have those votes. So if you join the Conservative Tea Party caucus, and I don't think there's any money to join it, you just have to participate. It's like a donation thing like what you guys do here. But they are organizing throughout this state. So a call to action that I have, get involved. I don't have the little badge, but it's the California Conservative Tea Party Caucus. And you can go online and look at it and join it, because they give you weekly, you can participate in weekly phone calls, you can participate in, their sole goal is to either take over the California Republican Party or push it extremely to the, constitutionally, not extremely, but constitutionally to the right, so that we can help get back our, prosperity and our freedoms and stand for something. The declined estates are the largest and fastest growing party, and the bottom line is that they're leaving our party because they're looking for leadership. They're looking for somebody to stand up and go, no, we're not going to conform to the way that the Democrats want us to do. They want us to act like this, and leadership today is going, okay, we'll take it. We put forth a jobs package. It didn't have anything to do with economic prosperity and private business enterprise. It had to do with a whole jobs package about, infrastructure and bridge jobs and all that stuff. Well, what about just limiting the government control over your business and giving you the opportunity to employ people and get them off welfare? That's a simple solution. So I think that, the Republicans need to focus on prosperity and liberty. I just want to tell you that, I'm reminded of George Washington, and, when he made that march to Valley Forge, the people that made that march, they had bloody feet, and it left a bloody trail in the snow. And some of you in this room will walk precincts, and you'll walk till your feet hurt, and you have blisters, but you can get involved. Some of you will make phone calls if you can't walk, sit in an air-conditioned room and make phone call after phone call after phone call. Some of you in this room might be a John Hancock. He didn't pick up a weapon, he didn't walk a mile, but he financed the war. So some of you will be that. Some of you will be Paul Revere, so you'll carry the message, whether it's on Facebook, door to door to your neighbor, on your phone book, or in your churches, or in your Rotary clubs, or in your Lions clubs. You need to carry the message of who your good conservative candidates are and help them get elected. I see churches. How many of you guys go to church? I'm not going to get mad at anybody. How many of you guys go to church? Okay. Do you know that your church can register voters? Your church can actually, there's a formula that Liberty Council has put together, so you can Google the formula at Liberty Council. If you have a volunteer pastor that doesn't spend any time preparing for his sermon, doesn't even have an office at the church, walks in at 10 o'clock and does a service till noon, and that's the total extent of his participation as a pastor. He has no staff, no phone, no nothing. He can spend 20 minutes of that service talking about politics. He could say, I endorse Shannon Grove, I like what she does, I would stand with her, she aligns with my values, and you will not lose your nonprofit status. Now let's say you're a big church or a mega church, and you have a choir leader or worship leader, and you have a youth pastor, and you have a senior pastor and a junior pastor, and you've got staff on, the staff in the office, and they're answering the phones. You can get up and actually do almost 4 hours a month. Now you wouldn't want to do that because people don't come to church for politics, but the bottom line is that you need to engage the faith community in the civic arena, because you know what? If America fails, it's because of the churches. And I tell them that all the time as pastors. I tell them, you guys have got to engage in the civic arena. 50% of evangelicals didn't vote or are registered to vote, and 23% of them voted in the last election. Jesus isn't on the ballot. I'm sorry. You need to pick the best person that aligns with your values. And believe me, I don't think anybody would think it was Barack Obama. Nope. Okay? So we need to engage the civic arena. You can engage your pastors to participate. They can register people to vote in your churches. You can do that in almost every group that you participate in. And you can help good conservative candidates get elected. So I'm going to stop there and take questions. Can I just take questions and see what you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about? Yes, sir.
About 4 years ago in Fresno, there was a couple of camps for the farm workers that were not working. There was over 3,000 people, and they were even getting carrots from China to feed them. What's the how many people are in those camps today? You know?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I know that they have a lot of, you guys know we're having this issue. Some people call it a humanitarian crisis. It's a border crisis. It's an immigration crisis, an illegal immigration crisis. That's what it is. The bottom line is that, my opinion, we should send them home safely. Go home safely.
Just people living in Fresno area and all that, if they can't work in the farms or anything more, and they have to live in these camps.
Yeah, I don't know. Fresno's about an hour and a half north of my district. Jim Patterson is over Fresno, so we could find out for you and get back with somebody here, and they can give you that information. I could probably text Jim Patterson in a few minutes and ask him, but I do not know how many people are living in a Fresno farm camp.
And the carrots are coming in from China.
I have the largest baby carrot producer. Grimway Farms is in my district, and believe me, if you eat a baby carrot between Bolthouse and Grimway, you're eating something out of my district. And they are so overregulated. They should be the poster child because of their organic process. They should be the poster child for California regulations, and they are so overregulated that they are buying property in Georgia, and it's really sad. One of the other things that I forgot to mention, just real quick, and then I'll go back to questions, is that this year on the budget, other than the cap and trade dollars, we limited local school districts. They can only have so much money. We limited to 3% cap. They can only have a 3% cap of their revenue in school districts as a rainy day fund. School districts used to stash away money in case the state pulled their money, and then they'd use that money to survive on and still educate your children and your grandchildren. Now the government in its infinite wisdom says, oh, you can only have a 3% cap, and the recommended cap across the nation is 17%. So that's just something that you need to think about as well. Next question. Yes, sir. Get them out. I agree. Part-time legislature. Yes.
I just wondered how we vote for governor this year.
How do you vote for governor this year? I usually say if I don't know the answer to a question, I'll have my staff research it, but they'd have a hard time researching that as well, so I apologize. I do not know.
I don't see much difference.
I don't see a difference between them, and to tell you the truth, and I don't want to get booed out of the room, I represent oil. Oil is in my district. 73% of the oil produced in the state of California is produced out of my district. 95% of the fracking done in the state of California is done in my district. We've been fracking there for 50 years, and we've been producing oil for 100 years on water aquifers, and nobody in my family's died from poisoning yet. So the bottom line is that I know what Jerry Brown thinks about oil and how he works, and I worked with him for 3 years knowing how he understands oil and how he protects oil in a way. I mean, we did get SB4, but I think that was to legitimize fracking. So, and the environmentalists, instead of doing the state thing, they're going after it county by county. So, I still haven't got a direct response on Kashkari's, how his issue with oil, and I can't answer your question. That was a good way to say I can't answer your question. Next question. Yes, ma'am.
Why is it not a law for anybody who wants to come and live in this country to be a citizen? Why do they not have to learn English?
That is a law. They do have to learn English. We just don't abide by the laws. That's in the Constitution. It's in the immigration statute. You do have to learn English, pass a test on the Constitution to get a certificate to be a citizen. You do have to learn it. We just don't. I mean, we have laws on the books that say you can't come across our borders illegally, and we don't enforce that. We have laws on the books that say you can't drink and drive if people drink and drive. We have laws on the books that say you can't beat your children, but every once in a while might need it. So yeah, we have laws. You do have to speak English to get a citizenship paper, and if you're a citizen of the United States, it is a law on the book. So it is a law already. Amnesty. The last amnesty program was under Reagan. The last amnesty program was under Reagan, and it was so that was the last one. I know they're trying to do something now with the 11 million illegals that are here. for a per se, they're not calling it amnesty, they're calling it, yeah, it's a immigration reform, but it's not called amnesty, it's called a residential working registration, citizen registration, or something like that. I don't remember what the name of it is. But they are discussing it now, but the last amnesty program was under Reagan. You had to serve in the United States military, pick up a weapon and defend this country, and then you could become a citizen. Yes?
Is that simply Bill 1014 and what's today, yeah?
Okay, 1014, you're gonna have to tell me the content. There's 3,000 bills, and you know what 1014 is, but I don't.
That's for restraining order confiscation of your firearms if you're found mentally incompetent or.
Yeah,
I say
that's,
that I don't like what you do and you might be a little bit crazy, so I'll take your guns away from you.
That's pretty scary because now the doctors, they passed a bill last year, and then this is a follow-up bill to this year. He's asking about mentally incompetence for firearms. But you know, your doctors will now ask you, you know, are you taking Prozac? You know, you just had a baby, are you on postpartum, you know, pills, depression pills, antidepressants, or anything like that? And then they're required to report that to the Department of Justice. Military people that come back from the military and PTSD is a huge issue. The bottom line is that they're trying to label that as a psychiatric or a psychological thing. It's not. To me, you know, I served in the military. I wore this country's uniform. And to me, just like people that were in Korea or World War II, and I was a Cold War veteran, but can you imagine these people in Afghanistan and Iraq, they walk by the street, there's that lady's purse. Now, if I'm in Afghanistan or Iraq, that lady's purse on the ground right there would probably be a red flag to me. When you come home after living in an environment like that for 2 years, and then go, oh, it's a purse, I'm gonna walk this way. Oh my God, you're crazy, you can't have a gun. You know, it's outrageous. If you are a military veteran especially, and you picked up a weapon to defend this country, I don't think you should take our Second Amendment rights from any citizen unless they've, you know, committed a crime or, you know, there's reasons, committed a crime. But, you know, we have every right to defend ourselves. I got pulled over one time, and I'm driving down I-5, and I drive down I-5, you know, I'm a female, I drive down I-5, it's dark. I got pulled over, I was speeding. I was getting home, and of course the officer comes up to my window, and I give him my permit to let him know there's weapons in the car, and he goes, he has this, you know, my permit, he's like, why do you have this? And I go, because the law requires me to. And he goes, no, why do you have guns in the car? And I go, because I have the right to. And he goes, but I understand why you have this. I go, because the law requires me to. You know, and it's like you're getting this, I'm like, oh my gosh. And he goes, well, there's 5, I think there's 5 weapons listed on my CCW. And he says, what do you have? And I said, well, I got my Glock and my Ruger LC9. And he goes, why do you have 2 weapons? And I go, well, I don't know. Just have them. You know, I couldn't really answer it. And he's like, what are you afraid of? And I'm like, nothing. Yeah. You know, and he's looking at me like I have 2 heads, but I mean, I don't know how to answer their questions. And to me, sometimes they just seem so absurd, just like the speaker. You know, I don't like that sign. Yes. You know, that's what you want to do instead of, you know, like when they shut my mic off. I was debating that, you know, they did this big tax credit for Tesla Motors the other day to give them a tax credit to build their mega battery factory, gigabyte, or some kind of special battery factory. So they did this tax credit for Tesla Motors, and would we like those jobs here? Absolutely. You know, I think every employer should get a tax credit if you hire somebody, as hard as it to hire somebody. So we did this big tax credit, and so I stood up and I go, you know, I really appreciate you guys going the extra mile. You're going to brag about it in the media that you gave Tesla this tax credit, but the bottom line is you haven't addressed the issues that really concern employers. The Private Attorney General Act, where an employee can sue you and get $100 penalty for every paycheck you've written back 4 years just for not having inclusive dates on your payroll. So you can say week ending 7/1 or week ending 7/8, but if you don't say beginning 7/1 and ending 7/8, like your employees are too stupid to count back 7 days, it's a $100 penalty per paycheck. Back 4 years, you know, you multiply that by 100 employees, it's a substantial fine. We're an indebted state. California is an indebted state to the federal government, one of 4 states that are indebted to the federal government, meaning that we owe, because of our unemployment insurance costs, we owe the federal government money, so our employers pay an additional tax under FICA, the federal income tax, to pay back just the interest that's owed to Californians, and nobody in the California State Assembly will deal with it because labor doesn't want them to. They're happy with us paying back as additional taxes. You look at all the things that we have to do. You know, all the labor codes. The labor code's this thick that we have to comply with. So anyways, they stood up and they're like, objection, and so they stopped me from talking and they go, please tell the assembly member to address the merits of the bill. There are no merits of the bill. This is what I'm trying to tell you that it needs to have. And they're like, objection, if she doesn't speak to the merits of the bill, then she needs to have her mic, discontinued. And so I said, okay, the merits of the bill is you get a tax credit, but that tax credit doesn't offset the Private Attorney General Act, and I just go right back into my thing because they try to distract you. And so they put their mic up again, and I'm like, oh my God, okay. Because they just don't get it. They don't want to talk about huge issues that we have. They don't want to talk about poverty. When you have California having a higher poverty rate than almost any other state in the nation, why? We are the promised land. We could drill for oil and create economic security here and get away from our dependency on foreign nations that are hostile to us. We could feed and fuel this nation, but we have people in that building that I work in that are so hostile to the business climate and to the job creators in the state that provide us, where our natural assets and resources are. We have the fertile farmland. We can grow strawberries and cotton. We grow 95% of the almonds. We grow 95% of the olive oil, or olive trees for olive oil. Think about the stuff that we have cattle on 1,000 hills. I'm getting right into the Bible again, huh? So we got cattle on 1,000 hills. We got gorgeous coastlines. We have oil. If we were able to unleash our oil reserves, people in this nation would go on North Dakota what? And we would have a 3% unemployment rate. Yes, sir. Again, you've already asked a question. Is yours harder than the last one?
No.
Golf?
Golf and Goleta, and you come off the golf course, your feet are covered in oil because it's all seeping to the surface.
We should drill for that oil. Harvest it. Yeah, we should.
Absolutely.
We should drill for that oil. Yes, sir. You're a candidate.
I am.
Yes, you are.
James Gallagher, Shannon, hoping to join you in the fight down there.
I hope you do too. I hope you do too.
What do you think on state water policy right now, and what are our chances of actually building new storage in the state?
We haven't built storage in 40 years. You know what I mean? We haven't built storage in 40 years. So right now, so it started out, I think there were 15 water bond bills. Well, there's the one on the ballot. And then there's like 15 water bond bills, and now we're down to one. And it's kind of held up in the Speaker's office right now. She's trying to negotiate this deal with Labor. And so Labor's holding it up in the Speaker's office right now. It's kind of where the whole water issue is.
Don't forget the red-legged frog.
Oh yeah, the red-legged frog and the swirl-back snail and all those things that we're going to have to mitigate our damages on. But there were 15 water bond policies introduced by different legislators, and we're down to one, right? Are we down to one, two, three? We're down to one main one. I know we're down to one main one, and it's sitting in the Speaker's office. We're waiting to see if she can negotiate a deal with Labor, and then it'll come to the floor probably second week in August. So you can get my information from Greg, and I'll try to keep you posted on that.
There's another one over here.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, sorry.
I read the New American Magazine,
Okay,
and big issue that needs to be dealt with in the legislature is the Constitutional Convention. I want to know what the status is in the California legislature, because there's not to be any convention. Each state is supposed to be voting on whether or not to have a constitutional convention. The danger is that they may rewrite the entire Constitution. So I'm very upset about what California is going to be doing. So can you give me the latest on
it's
what
not
they're
even
doing?
a discussion in the Republican caucus. That she asked about the Constitutional Convention and what California was doing. Right now, it's not even a discussion in the caucus publicly. Now, leadership could be having discussions behind everybody with just a few people, but it's not even a discussion in the caucus right now.
I hope they never discuss it.
Yeah, I hope not either. There was an interesting theory I was reading to Greg on the way over here. I have a gentleman that keeps me abreast on what he thinks is going on in the world type say, and I thought, wow, it's pretty interesting. It gives the influx of undocumented, they call them undocumented alien children, so UACs. So there's this influx of UACs, undocumented alien children, that are coming in from the border. And his theory is he's watching TV and they're all males, and we're sending these undocumented alien males to our military bases to be housed, where our military is unarmed except for a few MPs at the gate. And you think about, where they come from, the state, the nations, or the countries, the countries that they come from, and we're just transporting these people and plotting them right into our military bases. where our own military can't even carry weapons anymore. When I was in the military, we used to pick up our weapon every morning, check it in, you'd get a live magazine, and you would have it with you all day long, you know. You don't do that anymore. So it was an interesting theory that he was concerned about that. But back to the Constitutional Convention, no one in the Republican caucus is talking about it. And there is a big fear that they would rewrite the Constitution.
Yeah, we need to stay away from that.
Yeah, but you know, that we swear to take an oath every year. I swear to defend the Constitution in the United States against all enemies, and they violate it every day.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us how Big Sis got the job as the head honcho for the universities of California?
No. Your taxpayers paid her quite a bit of money. No, I cannot answer I cannot tell you how she got the job in a university system to be all over our California universities. I guess the response is it's because we're California. And, you know, we would never pick her. Yes, sir, over here.
How could this guy, what's his name, the bald head guy, governor.
Oh.
How could he go to Mexico and not bring that Marine back?
Yeah, that's right.
I signed on a letter with some individuals, some legislators. We wrote a letter to President Obama demanding that he address this issue. I think it's pretty sad that our government and no one will stand up for somebody that was honorably served in the United States military. I mean, you know, Navy SEALs, United States military, we don't leave anybody behind, and we left that young man behind in Mexico, and that is a pretty sad state of affairs, and we should be ashamed for doing that. And so I have joined together with Melissa Melendez, another United States military veteran from the Navy. I'm the first female veteran to serve on the state assembly floor. Melissa came in after me, 2 years after me, and she is the lead on this, trying to push President Obama to release, or to at least get into negotiations with the President of Mexico to release this United States Marine. We've also contacted Congress members to see if they will participate as well. And it's just a sad state. It's very sad that we are not doing more, or the United States government is not doing more. You know, if you're on the congressional level, you can stand up and wave a bigger stick than somebody from the state assembly.
I'm not racist in the least bit, but if that man was black, Obama would have been right there.
I don't doubt
I
that.
believe that.
I don't doubt that at all. I really don't doubt that. And I'm in the United States military, so everybody's green to me. I grew up in Arvin, next to the Sierras. So, you know, Maria Sofia Zenaida, Elias Juan, Angelica, Susana. I mean, there was 9 of them, and Mia the Gringa, the Huera, that lived next door. But they used to haul me down to Mexico all the time. But you're right. He tries to divide us by race and by class. And I sit on that California State Assembly floor, and they constantly say, this is for low socioeconomic disadvantaged Latino and men of color. You know, it's just absurd. The color of your skin does not create the character of your heart, and the color of your skin does not stop you from succeeding in life. This is America. I don't care if you're male, female. I mean, I'm Caucasian, but I barely have a high school diploma, went to a continuation high school. I own a multi-million-dollar business, and I represent 575,000 people in the state assembly. This is America. You can do whatever you choose to do.
But
Yes.
He makes it that way, though.
Yes.
The president makes it that way. He keeps racism right up there.
Exactly. No, I agree. I agree. Yes, sir.
Do you think Sikhs should be able to serve in the U.S. military with their turbans and beards?
Okay, this is my concern. I've served in the United States military, and I know that, and this is my concern with the bill when it says, I love the Sikh community. I have a large Sikh community, and they're just a kind, hardworking, they're farmers, truck drivers, business owners. They contribute to our community. I have a great, pretty large Sikh population. My concern, and for instance, like they passed a bill that said you couldn't discriminate or have Sikhs remove their turban, or they could not have them shave their beard, and in the workplace. Well, if you're in the oil industry and I can't protect your head with a hard hat for overhead cranes, and when H2S is released in the atmosphere and you can't darn a gas mask to protect yourself from dying within a few minutes of breathing H2S gas, then that creates a huge conflict for me. I don't think people's religious rights should be violated. I don't think that at all. And I don't think that, I think that if Sikhs served in the United States military, if they were put in a place, but then it's almost like discriminatory again. But how do you put someone in a position of harm.
Special forces.
Special forces.
They
That,
screw with beards already, and
Exactly.
they show that you can wear a gas mask with a beard on.
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know that.
There was a secret.
They have to be groomed. She says they have to be groomed.
Well,
They have to be groomed.
But there was a Sikh who actually taught chemical warfare, who had a full beard, and that was before the exemption was done away with.
So my concern, I guess, as far as the military is concerned, I would be concerned if you had to darn a gas mask. And I don't see an issue with the head. I don't see an issue with the headwear or the headgear, your turban. But what I do see an issue is, like I said, in the oil industry, there's no way I could protect you from dying, and then I would be responsible for your death and have to pay out the rear end for workers' comp. And I don't think that's right to put me in that type of position. And so that's,
I don't know about that.
yeah. As far as you couldn't work, I could not safely place you in the oil fields, and if I didn't place you in the oil fields, you could sue me as an employer, which I think is wrong. Because I can't safely place you in as an employer. If you're working in a hard-hat area and a crane or something dropped on your head and you weren't protected, I have an obligation to make sure you're safe. So without religious discrimination, there has to be some type of balance. Choice. Yeah, but they can't choose to work in the oil fields and still get injured and me. It's my choice. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. And then I'll go over here. Yes, ma'am.
Common Core, is every county now doing Common Core? What's the latest?
So Common Core is, oh, you're wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Common Core is, I think Common Core could be in a little bit of trouble. Not a lot of trouble, but a little bit of trouble. The most powerful union in the nation, the New York Teachers Union, has come out against Common Core. So that's a big plus. They say politics makes strange bedfellows. You normally don't align yourself, or I don't with unions, but right now I'm like really loving the New York Teachers Union because they have come out against Common Core. So Jerry Brown is still funding it here in California. It's still funded in the budget, but I think because of the teachers union is being very vocal, and they haven't just come out against it and said, oh, we don't like it. I mean, they're avidly campaigning against it. So that's a good thing. So we should watch that issue. Yes, ma'am. Oh, she went in the back. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes.
I love your poster with all these different state agencies out there. Is there any way possible we could get something to show how many termed out legislatures are on there, what their basic pay structure is for each of these groups?
I did that. Oh gosh, let me see if I can remember. So I did that in 2010, and I think, now I have these numbers wrong, I'm sure that somebody's going to correct me on, especially because you guys are videotaping this, but it was a large number. Like, for instance, the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, I think all 12 members, or 9 members, whatever the number is, but all of them were termed out legislators, and the pay was $148,000 a year, is what I think it was. Like Roy Ashburn, who was actually the senator that got termed out in my district, voted for the budget, which was the highest tax increases in the state of California, and he got an appointment to the California Unemployment Insurance Appeals Board, and they work about once a month. So, and then there are other legislators, termed out legislators that are appointed to different positions on some of these. And like one of these here, I'd have to find it, but it's right in this area right here. It's the California Task Force for Culturally and Linguistically Challenged Dentists. So, no, I'm serious. It's on here. It's on here.
You don't have no teeth, though.
It's on here. No, so we researched this just to show you guys how big government was. So we put together this graph and the whole bit. So you have the task force, which generated a committee, which generated an educational committee of other people to establish a test that dentists or physicians could take in order that was not mandatory by any state law, but you could voluntarily as a dentist take this test to say that you could culturally treat another person's culture, even though you were not of that culture. You could put that plaque on the wall. So yeah, we fund that. It's like, I don't remember what the dollar, I think it was like, a couple $100,000 a year. It's like, yeah, it all adds up. And diapers, $11 million for diapers, I'm sorry, You know, buy cloth diapers and wash them.
There you go.
You know, one-time use. I mean, you being on welfare does not constitute me having to pay for it. So, you know, if you're going to be on welfare, I don't know. It should be some type of cost controls. You know, disposable diapers. Buy cloth diapers and wash them. You just, my sister did. I didn't do that. But my sister did it. Oh, really? So my sister was all into that whole natural thing. I'm like, give me plastic. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know the status of Senate Bill 53, the ammo purchase permit?
The ammo purchase permit? That's De Leon's bill, right? Yep. Okay. So De Leon, our infamous speaker, no, or not now, he's the Senate Pro Tem. He has he has several bills, and so I don't know exactly which one you're talking about, but he has one that says you have to register. So if you're going to go buy ammunition, you can only buy from a registered dealer, and you have to apply to the state and say, I want to purchase blank rounds of 22 ammunition and blank rounds of 9mm. And then they have to issue you a permission slip per se. It costs you, I think it was, I don't remember, $50 or some type of, is it $50? You have it right here. So it's sometimes, so every time you want to buy ammunition, you will fill out this piece of paper and you will send it into the state and pay $50 to buy, you know, $50 for the ammunition. So that's one of the bills he has. The other one that he has is micro-stamping of ammunition. You guys have seen that, right? So basically you pull the trigger and the trigger mechanism will micro-stamp the shell casing and it will identify what weapon it came from and who owns that weapon. So they say. Right now there's no technology out there to allow, you know, that's proven technology. So basically Ruger and Smith & Wesson, is it Smith & Wesson? I know it's Ruger. Smith & Wesson? Yeah, so Ruger and Smith & Wesson won't be able to sell legally in the state of California anymore.
All the Brooks guns aren't registered.
Yeah, and you know, these kids, we had what, how many kids? Like 35 kids came up and talked to me, and they had me pro Second Amendment, and they had somebody else, you know, wanting to restrict guns. And she goes, but you don't understand, there's people in my neighborhood that are killing people. Yeah, and passing another gun law isn't going to stop that. It's the bottom line. Passing another law that says I have to fill out a piece of paper to register ammunition, do you think they're going to go down, you know, and fill out a piece of paper and register their ammunition to buy ammunition to commit a crime? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They passed a law. It was an Alejo bill. I don't know that the governor signed it, but I know it's off the assembly floor. It could be in the Senate. You know, there's 3,000 bills you try to track. But there's a bill that says you can no longer purchase weapons in the state of California without having a dealer outside the state registered in the state of California. So that means, like, if you go buy a car from Nevada, that person has to be registered with the DMV in order for you to purchase that car from Nevada. It's just absurd. And the bottom line is that more restrictions on lawful gun owners and infringing our rights, especially our Second Amendment rights, is not going to help the criminals stop committing crimes. And I can tell you, I often say, you know, like I shared with you, I'd never been in politics before. I'd never been in politics before, and here I'm a seasoned politician that knows all these things. And I was in a debate one time, and so the moderator goes, you know, what's your stance on the Second Amendment? And I was really impressed with his answer. He comes back and he's like, well, and you know, I'm making this up because I don't remember, but in 1974, this law was passed and it restricted us in this, and that was the downfall of the Second Amendment. In 1981, this law was passed. In 1986, this law was passed. And I was so impressed with his knowledge, I go, oh my God, I don't even know how to answer this question. And so they said, you know, Ms. Grove, what's your response? And so I thought about it for a second, and I said, you know, I'm a gun girl. And they go, I beg your pardon? And I said, I'm a gun girl. And he goes, my opponent just like slammed his fist down, and he goes, I demand you elaborate on that. I demand that. And the moderator goes, you know, I think you should elaborate on that. And I go, well, okay. I said, when I was in the United States military, I could take an M16 apart and put it back together in less than a minute. With a little practice, I could probably do the same. I carry a Glock 40 caliber, a Glock 27 40 caliber. My husband likes me to carry my Ruger LC9 because it's slim and it fits really nice underneath my suits, but I don't like the trigger pull on it. I go pig hunting out of a helicopter with an AR-15, and I like that better than walking and traipsing through the mountains. I said, you know, my kids compete in shotgun clay shoots. We have several gun safes with several weapons. You know, enough to where I bought one because I liked it, and I went home. My husband goes, you have one of those already. So I'm a gun girl. I don't know, you know, and I said, the bottom line is that You know, World War II, when we had the issue with the Germans coming across and killing our Jewish friends, you know, if they would have been protected under something like the Second Amendment, they might have got some of them, but they dang sure wouldn't have got 6 million. And when you look at what happened in World War II, when they stopped at Hawaii, when Japan, you know, bombed Hawaii and they stopped, you know, my theory is that they stopped because if they knew that they came to California, they would face not only a mighty military force and a police force and all that, but every rancher, every rancher's wife, every person in California, they'd be looking down a barrel of a gun behind every blade of grass. So I think we deserve to have our rights, and anytime government tries to take our rights to defend and protect ourselves, it's a liberty issue. It's standing up and doing what's right, even in the face of everybody doing what's wrong. And I don't want to sound extremist, and I don't want to sound radical, and I don't want to sound anything like that. But you know, I think the time is coming in our lifetime that we'll have one chance to surrender all of our weapons to the United States government, and it'll be the only chance you have. And if you do that, we're done. We're done. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to sound radical. I'm just telling you that we're in a serious situation, and we need to really consider thinking about that. I told you at the beginning of my talk, I used to go to missions trips, Zimbabwe, Africa, Haiti. I've gone a lot of places with a lot of kids, taken them to third world countries, and I went to Zimbabwe, Africa, and we went to an orphanage, and it's a culture, and it's the way people are. And it was, I went to this orphanage, and it was right at lunchtime, and it was all clean, and there wasn't any, you know, food, you know, nothing. It was all clean. And so I sat down with this little orphan girl, and I go, "You guys are clean up for lunch?" And she looked at me like, she goes, "It's Tuesday." And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Do you eat on Tuesday?" And it made me think, you know, I thought, wow, you know, she's so cultured to not eat on Tuesday. When Tuesday comes, she doesn't even think about not eating on Tuesday. And we would go and meet these street kids that were surviving on the street, you know, living on the street. And we go to these orphanages, and these kids are just living in, you know, horrible conditions. And then we went to dinner at a multi-millionaire guy's house, and a big old mansion, and water, and I mean wire all over, and barbed wire. And I told him, I said, "Yeah, I met these kids today, and, you know, I feel really bad for them. I feel sorry for them. I want to figure out a way to help them. I'm on the phone with my banker in the States, you know. Can we set up a 501c3, and, you know, can we raise money?" And that guy looked at me, and he goes, "Why do you feel sorry for those kids?" And I thought, "Are you kidding me?" And he goes, "That's all they've ever known. That's all they've ever known. It's not like you plucked them out of America and put them in there, and these kids are devastated. That's all they've ever known. They've only known living on the streets. They don't know any other life. They don't know any other life than begging for their food and having food when they get it. They don't know any other life than sleeping on the streets. That's all they know." The people that died when Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of Africa, when they, you know, the continent, when they died, when they died, before Zimbabwe lost its prosperity, they died knowing that Zimbabwe was very profitable, and that it was generations and generations that would feed and help feed the world. And there are major corporations in Zimbabwe, in Africa. He said, "You should feel sorry for the people in the middle. They saw it as they saw it as a great place. They contributed to the world economically and through the resources that they had with food. And now they're wandering, and they've lost their homes, and they're just wandering the streets, and there's no food, and they remember the days of old and the good days." And he goes, "Those are the people you feel sorry for." And he goes, "One day, if you guys don't straighten up, America is going to be just like that." And what makes me fear is that, you know, no offense, but there's some elderly people in this room. When they leave this earth, they will know that America was a great nation. The kids that are born 5 years from now, if America turns out like Zimbabwe, they're always going to know what that was. But us in the middle, we're going to know what we had and what we lost. And I think we're the ones that are going to be hurt the worst, if that makes sense. And it was a huge eye-opener. So my concern is that if America continues down that path, we're all in big trouble. So it's time to call you to action. Engage your church, engage your friends, engage your civic organizations, engage your Rotaries, engage everybody that you come in contact with. They have to vote. They have to participate in elections. Ronald Reagan used to say we're one generation away from losing our freedoms. We're one election away. One election away. So I challenge you all to get involved and recruit more people that think like you and get them involved in elections. Yes, sir, that's the last question.
What just blows my mind is my roommate and now her brother and his husband came to live with us.
His husband?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure I heard you.
Yeah, and news comes on, turn it off. Walk away from it. They don't know the simplest thing that's going on in this country, and they don't want to know. And I try to talk to them and everything, and they just placate me, and it just drives me nuts.
You can't have complacency and have a great nation. You know, the people that founded this nation, they were farmers and ranchers and deacons and churchgoers, and they came and they gave up everything. You know, they fought in Scotland, they fought in England, they came to the United States and the start of the colonies and came to America, and they go, and Britain's like, we're coming after you, and they put a flag in the ground, and they said, come, we gave you Ireland, we gave you Scotland, we gave you England, but you ain't taking this from us. And so I don't know how you educate people that don't want to be educated. You really got to get it passed. People go, oh, you spend too much time on social issues. Well, social issues have an economic impact. When you take the fathers, you used to get, when this young man, Chuck, right here, if he could have got somebody pregnant when he was 15 years old, there'd have been a shotgun wedding and he'd be working at the mines to pay for that kid, right? There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now it's like they pay the father to stay out of the home. They pay the mother more money, and it's your taxpayer dollars. So people say I spend too much time on social issues. Social issues cost money. I met with a group of oil guys. This guy came in from from New York. He's got a fairly decent sized oil company. And this was right when AB, was it AB 48 or SB 48, the Gay Lesbian Education Bill? I know it's 48. So he came in right when and he wanted to talk to me about the oil severance tax. And I took him to lunch, and we were sitting down, and I said, yeah, I'd like to talk to you about SB 48. It's this Gay Lesbian Education Bill. Oh, Miss Grove, I don't want to talk to you about social issues. I want to talk to you about the oil severance tax. I go, oh, okay. I don't know. This is the wrong numbers. I had these numbers in 2010 in my brain, but I don't have them anymore. But basically, 3 million or 3.5 million students at $100 a school book, and so many billions of dollars. How are we going to pay for that? Oh yeah, the oil severance tax. So your social issues cost money, and it costs a lot of money. Diapers, for welfare recipients cost money. So I think that when you see the moral fabric of your country in decay, there is an economic impact and a moral impact with it as well. Yes?
There's so much free education on the net. Why don't we provide students with computers? Free education all the way to college.
There's free education on the internet, and who provide them with computers?
Well, if we are paying so many taxes and everything, why don't we as a state, provide the children with computers? If parents can, why not the parents? And schools should have the connectivity at least.
So I guess I disagree with you in the fact that it's not government's responsibility to provide anybody with a computer. That's not government's role is to benefit the general welfare for safety, security, and it's not to buy computers.
If the parents can afford it, why can't the children take it and share it with the other students and do it? There have to be certain rules and regulations that every school has to follow.
A lot of times that you can't get through the education committees and education processes to benefit the educational environment that we have is because of the California Teachers Union. Now, they don't represent a lot of the teachers that I've met, so the union is very powerful. Like, for instance, this charter school bill, all we wanted to do was allow this students to be able to finish their education in that particular setting for the end of the year. Like if they had to move or they had to leave, and it took us a lot of time to get that bill through, and we had to take a lot of amendments. She asked why government or the state can't provide each student with a computer because there's a lot of free online learning. Right now,
only at schools.
Only at schools, and the teachers union is fighting bills that are allowing people to participate in what they call virtual charter schools, which where 80% of the teaching is taught online. They're fighting that because schools get paid for students sitting in the seat, and it's about following the money, and so there's a huge issue with that.
I used to be a teacher, and there are so many students, and we cannot actually pay attention to each and every student.
I agree.
So if we can get extra help, why not?
because you have to get it past the building and put together 41 votes. And you couldn't even get a bill passed when there was a child molesting teacher down in Los Angeles that was doing horrific things to the students. And a legislator introduced a bill that says if you commit violence, sex, or provide drugs to a student, then you lose your pension in prison, if you're convicted, not accused. And that bill couldn't even get out because the teachers union stopped it by paying thousands upon thousands of dollars to the people on the committee who voted it down. So you're fighting a very, very powerful union that stops it. This was a bill that says you cannot physically abuse a child, have sex with a child in between 1st and 7th grade, not high school, because they could consent. So they eliminated high school. Yeah, it was high school, and then they took an amendment down to 7th grade. And you couldn't provide them with drugs. And they made amendments where you can provide them with synthetic marijuana, synthetic cocaine, peyote, which is like an Indian hallucinogenic, and drug paraphernalia, and not get in trouble or not lose your pension if you were convicted of that. So they made all these exemptions, and that bill still didn't get out. The bodily injury, the harm, or the violence to a student went to great bodily injury, like you couldn't just slap the kid, you had to break its arm in order to be under this coverage, to where you wouldn't get your pension program if you were convicted of that crime. And then, and the sex had to be violent sex. Well, what's not violent sex with a first grader? But the bottom line is that these are things that we fight with every day. So you have a great idea. Why not have them have a computer and be able to go through free online schools and work at their own pace? If they're very smart, they can be, graduated by the time they're, 15 years old or 14 years old. I get it, but you're not going to get it through the building with unions.
Can you take some power away from them?
I wish. I wish. So that's my last question. If you guys have anything else, Greg has cards. I think he has mine too. If he doesn't, he can write my information on the back of his. And God bless you, and thank you for letting me be here.
Don't leave, we've still got a lot going. As you know, you probably saw the damsel in defense lady in the back, Melinda. So stop and see what she has. It's very important. Yeah, she has pepper spray, and she has the zappers and the dog trainers, and is that what we use it for? And also, we have a quick announcement. Debbie Gaylord was going to say a word about, I believe, the school board vacancies and the election coming up, or I'm just guessing. But don't leave. After this, we have In the News.
He had that pretty close. I wanted to remind everyone that the filing period for school boards and for city councils and for some of the special districts ends August 8th. If the incumbents don't run for office, they extend that another week. We need to get some good conservatives in all these positions. In the back by Carla, she has a list of openings for school boards, and in some cases I have on the list the people that have already signed up to run for school boards in Sutter County and Yuba County. So grab those and try and find someone to do that. Becky? I did look that up, but I don't think that they're very stringent.
You have to be able to read.
Basically, if you can fill out the form, then you can probably get the job. No, I don't think they do.
No, but she has the list of all the school districts and all of the vacancies that are in Yuba County and Sutter County. We do need to get citizens in there. So, right now is our regular feature that we have after every special guest speaker. Is we have a special guest speaker, and that is our world famous Paul Preston of Agenda 21 Radio. Paul?
Well, now the politicians have left, we can really talk. Well, what's really going on? Obama talking about taking all the power away from all of us.
I heard those sound bites you played before your show.
Oh, yeah. Okay, listen, a couple of things. Thomas?
Yeah.
You had a question of Shannon I can answer. What was your question?
How did Big Sis get the job running all the California universities?
Yeah, that's kind of a nice little job, isn't it?
Over $500,000 a year?
Yeah, for somebody who's a non-educator. Has no academic credentials. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. She also is an interesting historical perspective in that she was the first person to introduce to the Governor's Council, when she was governor of Arizona, Common Core in 2006. Those are her academic credentials. Now, having spent 41 years in education, I find that very offensive, as do a lot of people in the UC system. Anybody in here in the UC system? Come on now. It's fun, maybe. We're talking about the University of California. There's some interesting things going on with the UC system. People are starting to point fingers at the UC system as one of the main players in trying to destroy America as a system.
You see?
Now, you got just let's think about that. Now, Janet Napolitano was put in that position because she's supposed to be the titular head of FEMA Region 10. A little bit of forward thinking for these people. Thomas, did I answer your question?
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious, who was the guy that said you got the job?
Well, the players above Obama. All right, the worldwide players. You know, I do Agenda 21, United Nations Agenda 21. Our show is actually American exceptionalism for the 21st century. Get it? It's all about America. But it sprang out from United Nations Agenda 21. Those are the players. This is a worldwide effort. You want to know why California is going in the direction it's going. These are deliberate droughts. These are anthropogenic droughts. I mean, we're obviously draining reservoirs for no reason. For a delta smell. Non-indigenous fish. You guys know what that means?
Plus they're gonna pump all the water out.
What they're doing is deliberately draining the reservoirs. We have a 5- and 7-year drought cycle in California. And you heard Shannon. We're like in the 2nd and 3rd year of that. And these reservoirs were built for that. We should have plenty of water, no issues. But they're deliberately draining down the reservoirs. Now, why would they do that? So they can get people off the land and starve us off. And it's just real simple. And the Chinese are behind that. The Chinese are buying up all this land that's gone fallow. 50% of the homes being bought in Orange County are being paid for with cash, and they're going to Chinese people in China. Just a little statistic for you. So main players are working their stuff right now, and we are now starting to see it play out. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's what we're facing. So I just thought I'd, really make you happy on a happy note like that. Isn't that nice? Okay, any other questions though? Just ask some questions though. Yes, ma'am.
These corrupt politicians, are they headed for prison?
No.
What are they doing with them?
Nothing. They're all in on it. Yeah, they're all.
But they're not still serving in the legislature, right?
Oh, you're talking about the Leland Yee?
Yeah, and there's someone else.
They've been suspended from the legislature, and then you have the one guy who's actually they're all getting paid. They're all getting their back pay. But the courts are working their ways with them, and it's going to be a determination with them what's going to happen. But Leland Yee, now there's more investigation going on there. And Leland Yee has implicated 11 more people in San Francisco. And a lot of this happens to do with gun running, gun trafficking. Yeah. And some of the guns that they're running are missiles.
Yes, sir. Shoulder fire.
Well, they're worse than that. Some of them are laser guided, and they paint targets.
Where are those missiles now?
I wasn't told that.
Where did he get them and who's buying them?
I heard that last week that 3 people of Arabian descent crossed the border, and they had 3 very sophisticated missile systems that could paint targets on aircraft.
Where were they from?
Texas.
I ain't flying no more.
I don't want to put fear into you about flying, but so the other part of it is, well, I'm going to really cheer you up, is that, remember those 5 Gitmo guys?
Yeah.
Now, this is not in the news yet. Well, this is not in the news yet. It was on my show this morning, because when I got the information at the 1 o'clock phone call on Saturday morning, I never sleep. It's just never, Saturdays are terrible. 1 a.m., I get the phone call. 3 days ago, this is it on Saturday, 3 days ago, my informant tells me that, oh, you know what? 1 of the 5, he's back. So what do you mean 1 of the 5? 1 of the 5 Gitmo detainees says, well, left gutter. Right. And he was spotted in a shopping mall in Texas, in Houston.
Somebody tell the governor.
Oh, they know about it.
Oh, they do.
Facial recognition software brought him out, positively identified him. So 1 of them's back.
Have you heard anything about the DHS using charter buses to bring illegal aliens north?
Yeah, that's going to continue.
Because I saw 5 charter buses on Sunday morning, all running north on Highway 70, and I've never seen that before.
I've seen that with the going to the casinos. Those illegal aliens going there. Is that what DHS is doing? Take them to the casinos.
I've seen that, Paul, but I've never seen 5 in a row.
I can't answer that, but they are still rolling and flying. And if you listen to my radio show, I call them the rolling and flying Petri dishes, for obvious reasons. But they are still moving them into various locations. Which brings me to immigration. We do not have immigration. We do not have migration. We do not have illegal immigration. We don't have legal immigration. We have human trafficking on a scale unknown to mankind. That's what's going on. These people are being bought and sold like commodities between the cartels, between the Muslim Brotherhood, and other agencies that are illegal. The President of the United States knows this. This is being deliberately done. They're executing a plan that started over 2.5 years ago. This whole notion of the border down here, this whole concept is a Cloward and Piven strategy. Okay? This is so obvious. Overwhelm the system. Okay? So the border guards, they can't do anything because they're swamped. So what does that do? Creates a distraction. And what do the cartels do? Go right through the holes with human beings bought and paid for, and with kids bought and paid for. Sex trafficking is happening. And it's being distributed all around the country. And a lot of those kids are MS-13. That's the Salvadoran gang. And don't ask me the acronym because even when I was dealing with MS-13, I couldn't remember it. But they are part of the Sereno influence that came out of Los Angeles in the 80s. And they are the most violent group around. A lot of these kids from 7, 8, 9 years old are being trained up by Hamas. And this is happening in Central America and has been going on for some time. So this is what we're dealing with. These are not your normal California gangs that we export to other parts of the nation. These are specifically trained kids that are oftentimes, in order to get across the border, asked to kill their friends at 7 and 8 years old. That's what's here. That's what's coming across. And that's what they're trying to set up and establish. Now, there was a gang bust. The Flores gang down in El Monte. You guys hear about that? What'd you hear? Who said that? What'd you hear?
I heard they were replaced by more members coming in.
This is kind of back in my old hood. I used to deal with the Flores gang every once in a while, and the Bellflower group and all that stuff. But 400 agents last week from the Homeland Security and other agencies just literally wiped out the Flores gang in El Monte. Several hundred guys just arrested. And they're going to prison. All those empty beds in prisons, that's where they're going. Now what does that do? That's right. It opens a hole to be filled. It will be filled by MS-13. That's what's going to happen. This is going to go on and on and on. That's the process. Now you're asking for destabilization of the state, and that's what they're going to get. So I'm here to tell you that's what's happening.
What can we do about it?
Well, first of all, yeah, nice to have that. The first thing is just to be informed, number one. I'm here to inform you and let you know. I know this is kind of really tough information, but I don't feel, if I know this information, I have to tell it. And I've talked about this on the radio. Some people don't like it, but you know, it screws up their plan. So I just have to get it out there. There's a lot we can do. We can protest with our county supervisors any kind of approach by these people to rent property out for these kids to come settling in. We might have some vacant property here.
There's some in Lotto.
Yeah.
And there's some indication that they may be in the works.
Well, I can tell you there is an indication, yeah, but I'm not going to get into the weeds on the detail. The facility is ready and to take in a couple hundred. This will change the community entirely. I'm telling you, I know how the gang thing works. These are people that are connected to the cartels, and these are people that are connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, and Hezbollah, and Al-Qaeda. That's the connection. Okay? That's how they're going to do this unusual warfare here. That's how they're doing it. Now, we're in California, and we have a little bit different attitude about gangs, because we all kind of, you know, have lived up around them. Especially if you're in Southern California. Gangs, yeah, you know. But these are different characters altogether. They've never had the California experience. Kind of sounds like Obama, doesn't it? That's the psychology. Bring in people who have not had the American experience, and what happens? You don't have any institutional memory going on. And that's what they're attempting to do. That's why they're flooding the borders. Now, the good news, can't find any. The good news is this, is that we're on to them. And that's why I'm sharing this information with you tonight. We are on to them, and they know it, and they don't like it. They do not like it. I had a great conversation with somebody in Washington, D.C. just before I came in here. That's why I was a little bit late. We are on them, and they are squirming like crazy because they don't want this information coming out. Well, it's here. It's out. Too late. And there's other people talking about it. Michael Savage the other day finally got into the conversation about Leo Chesney, actually. GEO company. We talked about it on our radio show 2.5 weeks ago. It's nice that Michael came on board. It really was. He did an absolutely exquisite presentation on Friday about the human trafficking that's going on. And you can't put it any other way. That's what this is. Question? Yeah.
You referred to they as we have them squirming. Who would you be more specific on?
President Barack Hussein Obama, John Brennan, CIA director, to mention a couple, Valerie Jarrett, because we've advanced their program a lot. And I get this all the time from everybody. You know, inside the government right now, there's a real battle going on between two factions, the good guys and the bad guys. Like when I talk about the CIA, I talk about the good CIA and the bad CIA. And they're doing major battle right now amongst each other. One on the Obama side, one on our side. Our side's going to win. But it's a tough struggle. You talk about needing prayer. Prayer is definitely needed at this time. But that's why I'm bringing this all out to you, so you can get the word out, spread it. Because we will prevail in the end. There will be a struggle. I'm not going to say that there's not. In the days ahead, the next 60 to 90 days, there could be problems. Just have to be on the lookout for it. Yes, ma'am?
Why is it in the news that's being covered up then? Who's paying them to keep it covered up, like your CNN, ABC, and all that?
They're all beholding to Saudi Arabia and China.
And how can you break that?
Well, President Barack Obama is related to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's directly linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. There's no escaping that fact and that information. The Muslim Brotherhood, as I have been told, is running the country right now. How's it feel? If you look at it in that perspective, doesn't that explain what's going on in the military? Doesn't that explain what's happening in the border? Doesn't that explain about everything? I mean, Israel, the shouting match that took place with Netanyahu and Obama the other day. You know, Obama was really unraveled, becoming unraveled. And oh, by the way, please visit my website. Please visit my website if you want to see the 42-minute press conference that he gave the other day, the impromptu one. If you want to see a guy disassemble right in front of your faces, there it is. My friend who's a psychiatrist, after watching it, says, "Did you see that?" He called me up. No, I didn't. But I did watch it Friday night.
What's your website again?
Agenda21radio.com.
What does it disassembled mean?
Psychologically come apart. He was starting to. And please, by all means, watch the end. It gets better. You see the slurred talk. He doesn't want to look at anybody. He's doing all this number. And then the other one, when he's talking about the haters. You know, the one the day before. That's another one. Look at that one. He's disassembling. And everybody knows that. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But you know, yes?
How is it a good thing when there's a power behind him that we are not seeing and acknowledging?
Well, okay, we are acknowledging who these people are now right here in this room.
Yeah.
Okay? That's happening. And it's happening in other places as well. You know, a lot of radio people who are all in the same position we are on the national level. And you just can't get it to another level. Like Fox News would never talk about stuff like this. Fox News knows this is happening. You can bet. But they've got their reasons. They've got their money thing, their corporate ties, and all that good stuff, why they don't talk. And clearly, you know, David and Ben, CBS. Are you familiar with that relationship? Can't remember the guy's last name. Rhodes, thank you. There's the wiki man, by the way, my producer. Raise your hand, Wiki. David and Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes works in the White House. Right. His brother is president of CBS. You get that? So nobody's going to say a thing at CBS. Nobody. They gave Obama cover during Benghazi. Benghazi, sorry, I had to say it 3 times. They gave Obama cover during Benghazi on September 12th. They interviewed him, and they interviewed him but never put the interview out where he's talking about it was a terrorist attack. They didn't do that until the day before the election. Wasn't that sweet? But, you know, you could ask Obama the truth. What was the truth? Did you call it an attack? Yes, I did. Isn't that a good attorney thing to do? Right, Jim? Yeah, Carla.
And he was the best pick out of all 8 of them you said they had lined up?
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a second.
It's not, but did you talk about your Liberty Tour?
Yeah, I will in a second. But I'm going to talk about the 8 picks. There's a reason in Islam for the number 8, and I can't remember what that is symbolic of. Suicide squads are numbers in 8 in Islam. Just like you have the fighters that go out and they're always in 19. That's one of the holiest numbers of Islam, 19. That's why these attacks happen 19 and 11 and 17 and so on. President Obama was selected out of 8 picks, Manchurian candidates. There were 8 of them. And this all goes to Vernon Jarrett, the 60s radical. Some of you guys might remember him, communist out of Chicago. And he pleaded with the Saudis to pour money into the black communities so that they could become Islamists. And so the Saudis did. And so the Saudis said, look, we want a president to run the country because we want to take over America.
Saudis?
Yes, back in the 70s and 80s. It goes back that far. So what they did is develop 8 different candidates to become that president. There's only one left, and that's Obama. I know this sounds like a crazy story, but it's been pretty well verified to me for about the last 3 weeks. They're dead. It's like a suicide mission.
Where did Hillary
Get it? Okay, yeah, did that answer your question, pretty much? There's more to this, and if you want to hear more about it, Dr. Garrow is going to be on my show on Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's Wednesday, and I'll pump him for more information. It's really kind of interesting, 45 years in the CIA, and I ask him like a lot of leading questions, and he just goes silent. Oh, okay, I understand, you can't talk about that. Yes?
We were told in China that the Olympics opened on 8/8/08 because it was a lucky number. Did it have anything to do with the 8 you're talking about?
No. There's a whole thing with Islamic numerology. How many of you are familiar with this? With all the dates in Islam? You might want to go check it out. You might want to check out these numbers and what they mean in Islam. Let's see. Let's try number 1. Let's try number 3. Let's try number... Am I going too fast for you?
Yeah.
Let's try number 6, or 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 14, definitely 7, 17, 19, 34. Just try those numbers, okay? As an example, we'll run through these numbers very quickly. What was the date that Flight 17 crashed? Wiki. Okay, that was the 17th. You're getting close, but May it was not it, May. It was not May. Come on, Wiki. Come on, buddy. That was the one that was most recent in Ukraine.
6/17.
No, that's June.
That was March 6th.
Right. I went to college for that. 7/17. All right, so there's a 17. There's also 2014. If you total that up, 20 and 14 equals what? And 1/2 of 34 is what? So you get 2 17s, right? 17, 17, 17. In Islam, 17 stands for Allah Akbar. So Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, 3 times. That make sense? I know it doesn't make sense when you first look at it, but when you start running down all these different numbers for all these events, it starts to make a lot of sense. Right. This is not our culture, this is what we're dealing with.
It makes sense because we don't live that way, but to them it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, absolutely. Right. And like why was there 9 or 19 different hijackers? Why was it on 9/11, 2001? You can get in the whole numerology there, and it tells you a different story as to why it happened. Okay, next question. Yes?
You told us something Saturday about who shot down the airliner.
Flight 17. Oh, that's John Brennan.
Yeah.
My favorite John Brennan, who, you've heard about John Brennan recently. What did he do? He's in the doghouse. What is it? Snooping on who? Dianne Feinstein, which is illegal. God help us. What's wrong with that guy? What's wrong with it? Okay. Anyway, what he was doing, there's this scandalous CIA thing going on out there, that back in 2001 and 2002 and 2003, George Bush was waterboarding people. Well, the Democrats are just now getting around to investigating that. Hello?
Saved lives.
Well, but you know, it's torture. Why are we doing this? Isn't it? I thought it was 2014, right? Okay, do you see the contrived scandal there? It's obvious. So Brennan goes out and investigates Dianne Feinstein, which is against the law, and then he comes out and denies it. And then the next day, oh yeah, I did it. Okay, well, you know, that is against the Constitution, it is a felony and all these other things. But why did he do it now? Because he got caught. No, he got caught at something else. He was the guy who planned the shoot down on Flight 17. Now, why would he do such a thing? We know that. Now, you can take my word for it, but and the facts will come forward in the next couple of months. Things will happen and it will become very self-evident. They're looking for him to be outed right now and get out of the CIA. He'll be out of the CIA shortly. For a different reason. That's right. And what was the crisis that was going to waste, or they needed to let go waste on the 17th of July? What was it? The border. Yeah. Remember that? You need to go and read the article I wrote about it. And that will really provide a lot of answers for you. It's on my website. The shoot down on Flight 17. And it's got a lot of facts and information there. I just don't want to get into it right now. But you'll go, oh my gosh, this is how it works. So he got caught. Now remember, in Benghazi, we were shipping arms, through Al-Qaeda in the Muslim Brotherhood into Libya. We were the gun runners. We had already switched teams with Obama, and we became the gun smugglers shipping arms into Al-Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood, fighting Gaddafi. The person in charge of that was John Brennan. And John Brennan was the anti-terrorist czar with Obama. He was Obama's right hand, still is. Okay? All that has been discovered. It's been found out, and that's why Trey Gowdy is in charge of that committee. Don't you just love Trey Gowdy? Yeah. He was talking about obscene body parts the other day. Did you hear that? Yeah. Isn't that great? And by the way, if we can get out here soon enough, you can go catch that hour where we talk about the obscene body parts. But anyway, it's a great scenario. I play it. It's hysterical, but it shows you how well prepared he is. And by the way, if we can get more Republicans or conservatives, he's a Tea Party guy. Yeah. Did you know that? If we can get more of those kind of guys in leadership, the left will be on the run, because they are definitely on the run with Benghazi. Because all this information is coming out. That's why Obama does not want it out. They're buying for time. The stall game Sarah Palin calls. Because it's all starting to come forward now that they have been committing these crimes against humanity.
And it's not making the media, so who's finding out? Elected officials?
Well, that's one of the reasons I wanted to have a little chat with you about this tonight. And I'm really glad Shannon brought it up, because you are going to have a chance, let's hope, at some of these town hall meetings to be able to kind of confront certain people like Mr. Garamendi. And this is a question I would put to him. I hope every one of you stand up and do this and get some video. YouTube, okay? and say, Mr. Garamendi, can you explain why you tolerate the Muslim Brotherhood in the White House with the president? Can you explain that? Okay, Joe. I mean, seriously, because they live in their little bubble, and they don't, you know, relate that you or any of us in this room would know that. They know it.
They don't expect us.
They think we're just fat, dumb, and happy. They only have 1/3 of that right. We're happy.
Hey, Paul.
I just made that up. Yes. Chris Stevens.
Blow the whistle on them?
Yep. They killed him.
Yeah.
Because he knew about Brennan. Brennan was given carte blanche to run Black Ops. This is going to Benghazi. Christopher Stevens was killed by Al-Qaeda deliberately.
What?
And then they made the real mistake. They made the real mistake by going after the CIA annex several hours later, because they figured they needed to clean that one up.
Yeah.
And then that's where Doherty and Woods.
Well, they're already going after Trey Dodd.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, we'll see how long he lasts. He's the kind of guy though that's kind of like me actually. This is why I like him. Don't piss me off.
I like Dennis Miller too.
Dennis Miller's the same kind of personality, I guess. But you know, and that's it. He's not. Trey Dowdy's not going to back down. He's not. It's not going to happen. And they're going to squirm, and they're going to be hating life, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
You know, Paul, that business about the Brotherhood being in the White House, that's been on Facebook.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I put it on Facebook on one of the little things, it showed the picture of the guy there. And then one of my liberal friends came back and said, well, if you have that information, why don't you tell the Secret Service about it?
I wouldn't tell them anything. So they already know.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, how is this affecting Hillary for eventual 2016?
I think she's not going to run.
No.
I think she's toast, and I think there's way more stuff to come out about Benghazi. You got to understand something. A lot of you tonight, and I know Oz has been really active on Facebook. Congratulations, Oz. I would really encourage you to take what I say and say, listen, I listen to this clown tonight talk about all this stuff. I just can't believe this. And put it all out there on Facebook and Twitter and everything. Just put it out there.
See what comes.
Well, just put it out there.
See what sticks.
They can't stop that.
They can't block.
Well, they can't block it entirely. They're gonna. I anticipate someday they're gonna flick the switch.
Oh, they have in some cases, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mine got cut off on July 17, ironically, when you were saying that. I haven't been able to get into my news.
They'll do things, but they can't stop the entire mass. And that's the big conversation in what we call the new stream media right now. We are just totally destroying the mainstream media and all the ratings. Nobody's listening to the mainstream media anymore. They're irrelevant. They're absolutely irrelevant. And that's why it's so important as we talk, as conservatives and good concerned Americans, that we get this news and information out. That's the value of tonight's meeting. And that's why I came forward to this with this information, because you know, you will pass something on. And somewhere out there in the ether, people are going to pick it up and read it. And the more of it, the better. Because I'm not the only one saying this. There's other radio people and TV people on YouTube saying the same thing. It's starting to get out there. You watch the thing about the prisoner, the one that came back to Houston. Next couple of weeks or so, you'll start to hear about that.
What's new on Sandy Grove?
A lot. There's no death certificates for any kids. No evidence of that. No lawsuits. There's no evidence of 600 kids. There's supposed to be 600 kids at Sandy Hook School. You guys know that?
Right.
There's absolutely no evidence of those kids. They just, they had that shooting and all 600 disappeared.
Houses were empty and everything.
Houses were empty, right. It's a slow process, but it is coming out. There was a lawsuit that was going to be filed on the 22nd of July, but that's been stalled. but the information they're running from, I'm talking about the state of Connecticut. But there's absolutely no factual evidence of anybody dying in Sandy Hook.
Well, that little boy died, that supposedly was the shooter.
No. Well, yeah. Okay, so, you know, this is where the CIA screwed up. And this is where they got caught on the Flight 17 business. You may recall that the days before Sandy Hook, all these foundations were formed. Does that make sense? So before we have a mass shooting, we set up all these nonprofit organizations and websites so that people can donate to them. Then we have a shooting. Does that make sense to you?
Good Boy Scouts.
Okay. That's evidence clue number one. There's no video of any mass evacuation of students at Sandy Hook. There's no video, there's no proof that the students, when they go to the other elementary school, have anywhere near 600 kids. Sandy Hook was a school for special needs kids. They had 75 students total in the school. The school was being declared a hazardous waste dump because of all the asbestos in it, so it had limited use. Now, we have sent people out to count the heads at the new Sandy Hook school. They can't get past 70. Hello, we're the other 600. See, I used to do these mass evacuation drills, and the first thing I saw, didn't see, but the first thing I said to myself when I saw the footage of Sandy Hook, well, where are the kids? Well, I'm a kid guy. Where are the kids? Wounded kids, dead kids? How about the live kids? 600. Not one picture out there. Not one. Think about that.
I read the federal government just gave Newtown $17 million.
Right, right. There is going to be something big come out about Newtown, and I can't elaborate on some of it. I can tell you this. It's interesting. There is I think it's called the Fairfield mental institution in Newtown. It's a big, huge complex, and they're trying to make it into condominiums now. Go figure. How'd you like to live in that place? Anyway, a guy by the name, what's his name? The guy with the social security number that's the same as the president's. What's his name? Brunel? Brunel, whatever.
B-R-O-U-N-E-L.
Yeah, Harrison or whatever, Harold. Okay, born in 1890. Just so happened, in 1977, he died in that hospital in Newtown. 1978, guess who gets his social security number? President Barack Hussein Obama. You know, there's a lot going on in that picture. A lot of things. So, okay. I know, there's a lot going on. And Larry's giving me the big heat. I know, let me tell you. Anything else? Wiki, you got a question? Anybody else with a question before I...
Liberty Tour.
All right, the Liberty Tour. Okay, this is where Larry wants to make money. Okay, we are sponsoring the Liberty Tour, and it starts in Reading, and we're going to march down the state with a stop in Arizona, with a stop in Reno, and a stop in Las Vegas. And this is a tour of basically all the best people I can bring.
You got some dirt on Harry Reid, will you like one?
Oh, listen, we have dirt on Harry. Yeah. Clive and Bundy will be there by way of Skype. Clive and Bundy. And also Shannon, she'll be there by either in person or by Skype. Dane Wigington's going to be there, and he's got tons more information about what's going on. If you listen to him Saturday night, he was on Coast to Coast. Huge ratings spike for Coast to Coast. People are catching on. They are. Coast to Coast. That was his last Saturday night. He was on my show Friday, and then he'll probably be on probably the next week or so. Anyway, Chris Street, Orlean Corley, Terry Raposa, and other people like Paul Preston. Wow. And Dr. Garrow's going to be there. It's $35 to get in. It's at the Wind River Casino. So bring money for gambling. $10 per ticket goes to this tea party.
You don't get any free food with that money?
No, but you get a lunch. You get a lunch. So we're going to kick back $10 per ticket to this tea party. So we encourage you to go to that. We think it's going to be a good time for everybody. You'll get tons of information, and you'll be sort of proactively directed on what to do and how to do it, and keep the faith. Because right now our country needs faith. It needs a belief in the Constitution and everything that we stand for as Americans. We got a lot of trying times ahead of us, and I can tell you right now, we will persevere. Yes, ma'am. That's at Reading. All this particular show is at Reading on the 30th. And then we're going to march all the way down to San Diego with it.
Are you going to be stopping in Yuba City?
Pardon me?
Are you going to be stopping in Yuba City?
At some time. We haven't worked it out. But that's what Larry and I are going to work out. But I don't know when that's going to happen. Anything else? See, I'm just, yes, sir.
This is a little bit off subject. Did anybody go to Tuesday's Glenn Beck Common Core at the theater here in town?
Yeah.
I need that number from you if I can get it for the...
Okay. Anyway, I'm done. But if you want to listen to the interview, the Trey Gowdy business about the obscene body parts, it's on at 9:06.
It's on YouTube.
So, no, shh. Listen to my radio show, 14:10 a.m. Come on. Thank you.
I got one other question. About 4 or 5 days ago, Ben Carson, who was on Facebook, and I forgot, I was signed in to go in at 7 o'clock and I missed it. He had a telephone big conference call. Did anybody get in on that? Dr. Ben Carson?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
I didn't. Anybody else?
Yeah, I goofed and I looked at my watch wrong and I missed it by an hour.
He would make a pretty good president.
Oh, he'd be fantastic.
Also, in the back, we have a suggestion box. We need your ideas on how we can improve our meeting, or what we're doing good, what we're doing bad.
In addition to suggestions, if you have any complaints, we'd also like to hear those, okay?
And also, see Melinda in the back. Damsels in defense. Help her out. We really appreciate her being here this evening.
No, I gave